Hi, I hope you are all well. Yeah, I don't know where you are at or how you are feeling at the moment, but I know that I don't always feel like I am on top of the world or that I am loving and enjoying and think that lockdown is absolutely wonderful. I think there are definitely days and times where the struggle is real. And things are difficult and things are tough, and I guess part of this is maybe just to share some of my thoughts on my journey. I think whilst I've been in lockdown, I've had so many thoughts as to the role of the church and what that will look like going forward when our new normal kind of comes in. But I've also been thinking about my relationship with God, where I am at, how I'm connecting with Him, and actually having that realization that I'm finding connection really, really quite difficult at the moment. I'm finding that the introverted part of me isn't particularly satisfied because I have a 2-year-old, and actually quietness and alone time isn't a regular occurrence within my life. But also the extrovert in me doesn't feel massively satisfied either, in that our connection and our ability to be around other people is very, very limited, and because of that I'm finding that my connection with God is also becoming difficult sometimes, and I'm not finding it the easiest to just connect in with Him and be with Him and be close with Him. And this kind of, I guess, led me on a thought process and on a journey in my mind as to my relationship with God. How am I connecting with Him? How am I still enabling myself to go deeper? How am I still enabling myself to grow? And actually finding all of those things a real struggle. And I don't know if anyone else is feeling like that at the moment, or maybe it's just me. But I thought I would share some thoughts as to what has helped me in my relationship with God. It's by no means a formula or something that will fix everything, not at all. But I guess this is just me sharing part of my journey, and in that I was led to the story where Jesus walks on water. So in Matthew, in particular the version in Matthew, I think it appears in all of the Gospels, but in particular in the book of Matthew. So it's Matthew chapter 14 verse 22 to 33. Sorry, and I really love this story, and I think normally when we hear a lot of teaching on it, we focus on all of the right bits in this story. The fact that Jesus walks on water, and Peter comes to Him, and because of his small faith, his little faith, if you like, he sinks. He notices the waves. He becomes focused on the waves around him rather than being focused on Jesus. And it's a great story, and I think there's a lot to learn. But God led me to this particular story, I think, and the bits that always stick out to me aren't necessarily what we would normally talk about, because I find it really amusing that we don't tend to focus on or talk about the fact that Peter walked on water. Like, I know it was temporary, and I know that he sank, but Peter walked on water. He walked on water, which was something that only the Messiah, only Jesus was doing. So Peter did something completely impossible and completely divine, really, by the power of God. He walked on water. I have never seen anyone walk on water, but Peter walked on water. He did something that was impossible, and it might have been temporary. He might have eventually have sank, but he still walked on water, and he walked further enough. He walked far enough to actually get to Jesus. So we don't know how close Jesus was, but they didn't recognize him to begin with. So I'll take it that he wasn't standing next to the boat. He must have been a good distance away. And Peter still walked on water long enough to get to Jesus. And I love this story because in the middle of a storm, Peter decided to have such a faith. He decided to have an audacious faith that says, Jesus, if that's you, tell me to come and I'm just gonna come. I struggle to get my head around that, because in the middle of a storm, Peter's faith grew. In the middle of something that was draining and exhausting and tough and tiring and probably scary and difficult, Peter's faith grew. So Peter decided that in the middle of a storm was the time to try and do something that was impossible. Peter decided that in the middle of a storm, he needed to do whatever it took to get to Jesus. Nothing was going to stop him getting to Jesus. And I think in the middle of a storm, it was in that moment that Peter decided, I need Jesus. I just need Jesus, so I'm going to do whatever it takes to get to Jesus. So in that moment of climbing out of the boat, I wonder, did Peter choose to have an audacious faith so that he could get to Jesus? Or did Peter have an audacious faith because all he wanted was Jesus? All Peter could see was Jesus in that moment. I don't think anything else mattered. Otherwise, why would he climb out of the boat? Now, unlike Peter, I can't always see Jesus. And in days like the time that we're living in at the moment, I don't think I always have the fight to look for Jesus either. And yet, I guess I wish I was more like him in wanting to get out of the boat. But I know I feel distracted and maybe a little disconnected. The other part of this story that I really like is no other disciple decided to get out of the boat. Peter wasn't the only person on that boat. No other disciple decided that they wanted to get out of the boat. Didn't ask to get out of the boat. We don't even read that they attempted to get out of the boat. Which means I think that tells me that Peter saw an opportunity to get to Jesus and he took it. Maybe he saw the opportunity that the others didn't see. I don't know, but he took the opportunity as soon as it presented itself to get to Jesus. Now my life, my routine, if you like, it isn't filled with morning Bible studies or quiet times at the moment. Even tuning into church on a Sunday morning, that feels difficult, and not because I don't want to, but because there's a lot of noise, a lot of distractions. So to hear and tune in to what is being preached or spoken about, actually that's a challenge. And therefore there feels like at the moment for my life there are lots of distractions in place, a lot of opportunities for disconnection to be easy, because I don't get a quiet time to sit with God in the same way anymore. I don't have the opportunity to read a few verses uninterrupted, and now I don't begrudge anyone for that, not at all. Actually, family is a real blessing, but it just means the way that I'm connecting with God needs to look different at the moment. And I guess this is where I can feel myself likening to Peter a little bit at the moment. In this time of lockdown, I've had to learn and teach myself to notice, find and appreciate the small opportunities to connect with God. Now I know that that is not rocket science. That's not a difficult conclusion to come to at all. And yet it took me a while to get there, I think. But I found that when motivation and focus and even the desire to connect with God is low, I need to do the small things. Peter took an opportunity that no one else noticed. He took an opportunity that seemed impossible and full of distractions. He took that opportunity to get to Jesus. And that scenario feels familiar at the moment. Now, the other day I was cooking dinner. I was in the kitchen on my own. So I had this moment where I decided to put on some worship music. And at points I would sing wonderfully out of tune, and at other points I would just listen. But either way, it was a small moment. It was a small moment of cooking that I took as an opportunity to connect with God. Every day I have a scripture pop up on my phone that I read. It's a tiny moment to notice God. When we go for walks in the sunshine, it's the opportunity to appreciate the creation around us. And it's a tiny moment to notice the Creator. I don't know, maybe you find yourself in a place where your faith is growing in this, and you're stepping out of the boat and you're getting bold and you're getting audacious because you want so much of God, you want so much of Jesus. And that's amazing, and you know what, I want to cheer you on in that. But maybe you sit in a place that is a little bit closer to me, where things aren't always easy, and actually there's a lot of challenges mentally and emotionally and spiritually and physically at the moment. But I want to, whichever one you sit in, I want to encourage you, which I guess is kind of what I hope this would be. I want to encourage you to take notice and take the small moments so that you can get to God. Find a way to build small moments to meet with God into your day. Because I think regardless of whether you have a faith that is growing and you're getting bolder, or whether you feel like you're clinging on for dear life with God at the moment, either way, I think taking the small moments to notice Him and engage with God, I think we'll all be better for it. I think life will be better for it. We, as individuals, will be better for it. And the church will be better for it. Yeah, I guess take the small moments. Take the small wins. It might boost you more than you think. Be blessed.